Hello, you're on the Reddit Reveals channel. It happened between slices of cake and the clown making balloon animals. She didn't even flinch. 1 second, I was holding a paper plate with a poorly cut chunk of red velvet cake, nodding along to some boring story her cousin was telling about dental school. Next second, she leaned in, kissed my cheek in front of everyone, and whispered, "Check your jacket pocket." I thought it was some flirtatious note. Maybe a cheesy little, "Meet me in the guest room," face blowing a kiss, because she'd had 2 glasses of wine. But no, it was divorce papers, folded neatly into thirds, tucked behind my sunglasses. Right there, at a 6-year-old's birthday party, while kids screamed in the bounce house and a minion piñata dangled from a tree. She looked at me like I should be grateful, like it was a kindness. I stood there smiling like an idiot, cake fork halfway to my mouth, while she just walked away. Not even dramatic, just casual, like she was refilling a drink or going to check on the gifts. And all I could think was, wait till your lover sees how I respond to this circus stunt. Because what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, is that I already knew everything. About her late-night study sessions. About her coworker named Bryce who didn't exist in the company directory. About the second phone she kept hidden in the flour jar in our kitchen. I had screenshots, voice recordings, GPS logs. God, I even knew what cologne he wore. I hadn't said anything. Not because I was stupid, but because I was waiting for her to make the first move. And now that she made this game public, I wasn't holding back anymore. But first, I had to get through this party. Eat cake. Sing the birthday song. Pretend everything was fine. Even though the war had just begun. I stood there, paper in my pocket and bile in my throat, pretending to listen while Emily laughed in the distance. Her voice used to be my favorite sound in the world. Now it grated like glass under my nails. She looked radiant, like someone who'd just been set free. There was a lightness to her walk, a looseness in her shoulders. She was glowing. Not from relief, from control, from power. Her cousin Olivia tapped my arm and asked if I could help carry the presents inside. I nodded like a robot, still clutching the plate with a melting slice of cake. I mumbled something about needing to find the bathroom, then slipped away and locked myself in the hallway guest room. The smell of old stuffed animals and scented candles did nothing to calm me down. I took the papers out and stared at them under the yellow lamplight. Signature. 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 She'd already signed everything. She wanted nothing from me. No alimony. No house. Not even custody of the dog. She just wanted out. Or, she wanted something else entirely. That's what started to itch in my brain. Because Emily doesn't do clean exits. She's not someone who forgets details or makes impulsive decisions. She's strategic. Surgical. Which meant one of 2 things. Either she was setting me up for something far worse, or someone had convinced her this was the best way to hurt me. Bryce. His name wasn't on the papers, of course, but he might as well have been printed in bold across the top. Bryce, Mr. Perfect Hair, Mr. I wear loafers to barbecues. He worked at some boutique marketing firm with a foosball table in the lobby and an espresso machine worth more than my car. He drove a Tesla. Of course he did. The problem wasn't just that she was leaving me. It was that she thought I wouldn't fight back. That I would roll over like the dull, tired, little husband she painted me to be. I used to be more. I used to matter. Then someone knocked. I shoved the papers back into my pocket, opened the door, and there she was. Emily, holding a camera. "We're doing group photos," she said with that calm, icy tone she always used when she didn't want to cause a scene. "You okay?" I smiled. A weak, trembling, humiliated smile. "Of course. Just needed a minute." "Great," she replied, then leaned in, brushing imaginary lint off my shirt. "Let's make this look good. For the pictures." And for a moment, I thought I imagined it, but I swear she winked. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a performance. And the audience? Bryce, her friends, my family, maybe even legal professionals I hadn't met yet. I wasn't just being discarded. I was being framed. So I smiled wider, followed her out to the yard, put my arm around her in the group photo, laughed when someone made a joke about marriage. I even kissed her on the cheek. Because the show had just started, and I was rewriting the script. After the photos were taken and the piñata had been violently decapitated by a 6-year-old wielding a plastic bat, I excused myself to the edge of the yard. I told people I was checking work emails, but the truth is, I couldn't feel my hands. My entire body was buzzing like I'd swallowed static. The papers were burning a hole in my jacket pocket. Every time Emily walked by, smiling, refilling punch, straightening streamers, I had to fight the urge to scream. Not because she had handed me a divorce at a child's party. Not even because she was cheating. No, because she had planned this. Meticulously. The timing. The location. The audience. She wanted this moment burned into my memory like a brand. And yet, something about her was off. I started paying closer attention to her body language. The way she kept glancing toward the gate at the side of the house. The way her phone was glued to her palm, screen down. The way her smile tightened whenever someone asked where Bryce was. Because yes, people knew now. It wasn't even a secret anymore. Bryce had gone from whispered suspicion to name-dropped reality. I heard it twice just in the last hour. One of her friends even said it with a smirk when pouring Prosecco. Can't believe Bryce isn't here to celebrate your freedom. That's when I saw the clown. Not a metaphor. A real hired clown. He was standing by the deck, sipping from a juice box and watching Emily with a strange intensity. I noticed because everyone else had returned to cake and games, but he hadn't moved. I could tell something was bothering him. He looked uncomfortable, like he had seen too much. I walked up, pretending to make small talk. He was mid-30s, shaggy blonde hair poking out from under his rainbow wig. White face, paint melting slightly in the sun. He glanced at me, then back at Emily. "You the husband?" he asked bluntly. I blinked. Yeah." He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded napkin. "I don't usually get involved in this kind of thing," he muttered. "But I think you should see this." I unfolded it. A phone number. A time. A street address. My stomach flipped. "What is this?" I heard her on the phone while I was putting on makeup in the bathroom. She didn't know I was in there. "I think she's meeting someone tonight." Guy sounded older. Angry. Mentioned something about fixing things. I froze. She wasn't meeting Bryce. She was meeting someone else. I looked over at her. She was laughing again, holding a cupcake up for a toddler who was too shy to take it. And then it clicked. She wasn't just leaving me for love. Or lust. She was covering something up. And if I wanted to survive this, with my sanity, maybe even my freedom intact, I had to find out what it was before midnight. Because something was coming. Something far worse than divorce. I didn't leave the party right away. I couldn't. If I stormed off, it would confirm something. People would whisper. Emily would twist it into a tantrum. And the way she was setting this all up, the image of me mattered more than the truth. So I played along, helped clean up the wrapping paper, high-fived kids, even made a half-hearted joke about how I still didn't know how to tie a balloon animal. Inside, I was boiling. My thoughts kept circling that napkin in my pocket. The clown's words. The way he said older and angry. The way Emily's eyes kept flicking to the driveway. Just before we left, I watched her from across the lawn. She hugged her cousin goodbye with one arm while texting with the other, her thumb moving fast. Then, for the briefest moment, she locked eyes with me. Something passed between us, something raw and electric. Not regret, not fear. Almost warning. At 9:47 p.m. I pulled up to the address the clown had written down. It was on the edge of town, near the industrial side, where furniture stores go to die. I parked across the street from what looked like a closed auto detailing shop. No lights, no signs, just a long chain-link fence and a dim overhead lamp flickering above a metal door. At 9:59, a black Mercedes pulled in. Tinted windows. New. Quiet. It rolled to a stop beside the building. For a long minute, no one got out. I stayed perfectly still in my car, heart hammering, suddenly unsure if I was brave or just stupid. Then Emily stepped out. She wasn't dressed like someone meeting a lover. No makeup, no heels, just jeans and a gray hoodie I hadn't seen before. She kept looking over her shoulder like she was being followed. She walked to the metal door and tapped 4 times. Too quick, too slow. The door opened. I couldn't see the man inside clearly, just a shadow leaning against the frame. But when he stepped forward, my stomach dropped. He wasn't Bryce. He was older, graying hair, broad shoulders. He wore a leather jacket and carried himself like someone who'd been obeyed his whole life. Military, maybe, or something darker. Emily didn't hug him. She didn't smile. She just handed him a folder. He opened it, flipped through the pages, nodded once. Then he handed her something small. Maybe a flash drive. Maybe cash. I couldn't tell from this distance. I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo, and instantly regretted it. The sound was off, but the screen glow must have given me away. Because the man turned and looked straight at me. No hesitation, no confusion, just him staring through my windshield like he already knew who I was. Emily turned too, and for the first time in years, her face looked terrified. I dropped the phone, shifted the car into drive, and peeled out. I didn't go home. I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. What was in that folder? Why was she meeting that man? Why had she filed for divorce after that meeting was scheduled? It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was conspiracy, and I was tangled in the middle of it. When I finally walked into our apartment, the lights were off. Emily wasn't home. But on the kitchen table, under a flickering bulb, was a single object. Her wedding ring. And next to it, my passport. I stared at the passport like it might explode. It was mine, but I hadn't seen it in over a year. I thought I'd lost it after our honeymoon in Prague. Emily swore she hadn't seen it either. Now here it was, sitting neatly next to her wedding ring, like a final instruction, like a push out the door. My name, my face, my future, snapped shut between two navy blue covers. I didn't touch it at first. I just stood there, keys still in hand, shoes still on, trying to breathe through the sick feeling crawling up my spine. My brain couldn't keep up. Divorce papers, a secret meeting, a strange man with dead eyes. And now this, a passport left like some kind of escape kit. I finally sat down and opened it. Everything looked normal, except for the tiny plastic pouch wedged behind the back cover. It was a micro SD card. No label, no note, just slipped in like a buried landmine. I didn't think. I just moved. I went straight to my old laptop, the one I hadn't touched in months. Emily always used her MacBook, but I'd kept this one hidden in the hall closet behind a pile of old blankets. I don't even know why, some paranoid impulse. Now I was grateful for it. I booted it up, slid the card into the reader, and opened the only file on it. A folder named, Do Not Trust Him. My mouth went dry. Inside were dozens of JPGs, a few PDFs, and 5 video files, all dated within the last 3 months. I opened the images first. Most were surveillance-style shots. Some grainy, some clear. The man from the warehouse appeared in nearly all of them, sometimes alone, sometimes with others. One was a photo of him shaking hands with someone who looked disturbingly like a local politician. Another showed him slipping a duffel bag into the trunk of a car that wasn't his. The PDFs were worse. Financial records, travel logs, schedules, bank transfers to shell companies in Panama, Belize, the Caymans. None of it meant anything to me at first, until I saw the name on one of the documents. Emily Rossner, my wife, not just mentioned, listed as a secondary signatory. My hands started shaking. I clicked on the first video file, and everything around me disappeared. It was footage from what looked like a dash cam, nighttime, rainy, date stamp from 2 weeks ago. Emily was in the passenger seat of a black SUV, her hair pulled back, face tight. The driver was the man from the warehouse. His voice was muffled but distinct. He's going to ask questions. You sure you're ready to burn it down? Emily didn't hesitate. I already started the fire. I slammed the laptop shut. My heart was racing, my mouth dry, my skin clammy. I suddenly felt like I was inside someone else's life. None of this made sense. Why was she documenting him? Why hide this from me? Was she trying to protect me or frame me? Before I could think, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring out. It buzzed again. Then a text. You shouldn't have watched that. Check your front door. My breath caught. Slowly, I turned toward the entrance to the apartment. I didn't hear anything. No knock. No footsteps. I crept forward, every nerve in my body screaming. I opened the door, and on the doormat, carefully placed, was a white envelope. No name, no writing, just a USB stick inside. And the moment I touched it, I knew. This wasn't about a divorce anymore. This was a countdown. And I was already out of time. I stood in the doorway far too long, just staring at that small, silent envelope. The hallway outside our apartment was empty, eerily so. No neighbors arguing, no footsteps echoing up the stairwell, just the quiet hum of a single flickering light overhead. I checked both ends of the corridor twice before finally kneeling and picking it up. It felt warm. I told myself I was imagining things. Nerves, blood pressure. But the second I closed the door behind me, something shifted. The air inside our home felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. I moved toward the kitchen counter, set the envelope down, and stared at it like it might bite. Then I made a decision I'd been avoiding for days. I called my brother. Mason and I hadn't spoken properly in over a year, not since our father's funeral. We never really fought, we just stopped trying. He always thought I settled in life, that I dulled myself to make other people happy, Emily included. Maybe he wasn't wrong. He picked up after 4 rings, and his voice was as cold and sharp as I remembered. Is this a mistake? He asked. No. I need help. That was all it took. 20 minutes later, he was at my door in sweats and a black hoodie, his eyes scanning the hallway like a soldier clearing a building. I told him everything in pieces. The birthday party, the divorce papers, the man in the warehouse, the SD card, the footage. And now, the USB. He didn't ask many questions. Just plugged the stick into my old laptop and waited. It had one file. A folder labeled for him. Inside was a single video. It opened with static, then cut to footage of Emily, some kind of hidden camera. She was in a dim hotel room, pacing, talking on a burner phone. The audio was warped, but Mason boosted the volume until we could make out fragments. He won't run. He's not built for that. He'll freeze. No, listen, if we push him too far, he might snap. I told you, he keeps everything. Receipts, dates, records. He's scared to forget anything. He'll watch the drive. He'll open the door. Then you do it. Then silence. She turned toward the hidden camera, eyes glassy, hands trembling slightly, and whispered, almost to herself, I'm sorry, Nolan. But you were always too weak to survive the fire. The screen went black. My brother said nothing. Neither did I. There it was. Confirmation. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This wasn't just cheating or even manipulation. This was a setup. A trap. And I was the one she was building the cage around. Mason stood up slowly. You need to disappear, he said. Tonight. I laughed. A bitter, broken, hollow laugh. Disappear where exactly? They already know where I live. They know everything. I've been 5 steps behind since day 1. He paced the room, rubbing the back of his neck. You're thinking about this wrong. They expect you to panic. You need to calm down. We can flip this. You said she didn't know you saw the footage from the warehouse, right? Or the files. I nodded. Good. Then we play dumb. We pretend you're still the same old Nolan. The forgettable husband. The man who never noticed. The man who just wants to talk things out and move on. He paused, then added, almost like an afterthought. But you're going to have to burn her first. That sentence sat between us like a loaded gun. Because despite everything she'd done, despite the lies and the threats and the betrayal, some part of me still loved her. Or maybe I just loved who she used to be. Or who I pretended she was. But now she was building something behind my back. With strangers. With secrets. With plans. And if I didn't stop her soon, I wouldn't just lose my marriage. I'd lose everything. So I nodded. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something strange. Clarity. We didn't sleep that night. Mason stayed over, sleeping in short bursts on the couch, one arm draped over a duffel bag he refused to let out of sight. I didn't ask what was in it. Whatever it was, it made him feel prepared. I envied that. Meanwhile, I sat in the dark by the kitchen window, watching every passing car like it was a threat. My phone was off. My laptop was offline. No apps. No GPS. Mason was adamant. Anything that pings can be followed. By morning, I had a new plan. Not a perfect one, not even a smart one, but something. I told Mason I was going back to the warehouse where I'd seen Emily meet the man in the leather jacket. I needed answers. Not evidence. Not files. Answers. He offered to come. I told him no. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to face this myself. Or maybe I needed to feel like I still had a spine. The warehouse was different during the day. Quiet. Almost abandoned. The parking lot was empty. The front gate was chained. But there was a service entrance around the side, half obscured by a collapsed fence panel and an overgrown tree. I remembered the pattern Emily had knocked. Too quick, too slow, and tried it. Nothing happened. I tried the door. It creaked open. Inside, it smelled like dust, oil, and something faintly metallic. The floor was concrete. The walls were lined with stacked crates and peeling posters from a long-dead logistics company. I moved slowly, heart pounding in my ears. Every shadow felt alive. I found stairs at the back. They led down to a sub-level, dark, silent, colder. That's when I heard the humming. A low, rhythmic buzz, like old servers or industrial generators. I followed the sound to a metal door with a wired glass window. Inside was a room I didn't expect, a switchboard operations floor. Old tech. Phones, monitors, patch panels, like something out of a Cold War bunker. But some of it was on. Lights flickering. Screens running encrypted code I didn't understand. And at the far end of the room, a desk. And on that desk, my name. A folder, just like the one Emily handed off. Labeled. N. Rossner // asset file 301. My hands were trembling as I opened it. Inside were surveillance photos of me. At the grocery store. At work. At the gym. In our own apartment. Some were from weeks ago. Some were from last year. One was from our anniversary dinner in the cabin. I had no idea we were being watched. There were notes. Timestamps. Observations. Some were clinical. Others felt judgmental. Subject remains unaware. Dependency on spouse, high. Threat level, low. Manipulable. Ideal for long-term field test. Field test? My skin went cold. This wasn't about cheating. This wasn't about money. This was bigger. Coordinated. I wasn't married to a liar. I was married to a handler. And I was the test subject. Footsteps echoed behind me. I spun around, too slow. A man stepped into the light. Not the one from the warehouse. Someone younger. Cleaner. Business suit. Calm eyes. You were never supposed to see this, he said, without raising his voice. I didn't ask for any of this, I snapped. You were selected, he replied. That's not the same thing. My fists clenched. Selected for what? He stepped forward, as if explaining to a child. To see how far we could stretch the line between truth and fiction, between comfort and suspicion, between love and control. You were a perfect candidate. Predictable. Loyal. And now you're off script. I wanted to scream, to lunge, to do something, but my feet wouldn't move. He pulled out a phone, showed me a live feed. It was my apartment, my kitchen. Mason was inside, sitting on the couch, unaware. You have one more decision to make, Nolan, the man said, tucking the phone away. You can keep digging, keep acting brave, or you can walk out of here and pretend none of this ever happened. Go through the divorce, vanish into the world, and stay quiet. I didn't respond, but I looked back down at the folder, at the words stamped on the last page. Phase 2 begins, August 22nd. That was tomorrow, and suddenly I knew. I had until midnight. I didn't sleep that night either. Not because I was scared, though I was. Not because I didn't have a plan, though I barely did. I didn't sleep because something had shifted inside me, something that had been dormant for years. My entire life, I had walked quietly, politely, obediently. I was the guy who made coffee, not noise. Who apologized first, even when I was right. Who kept the peace even when war was warranted. But now I was done being that man. By sunrise, I had everything I needed in one small backpack. My laptop, both memory drives, printed files, the surveillance folder, and the passport. I dressed plainly, shaved, and left a note for Mason. If I don't come back by noon, release everything to the address in my contacts named Lighthouse. It was an old journalist friend of mine, the only one I trusted. I returned to the switchboard facility just after 7 a.m. No guards. No cars. No humming. They had cleared out. Completely. The room that once buzzed with machines was gutted. Wires torn from walls. Screens shattered. My file gone. Not a trace left. Like it had never existed. But I knew better. I drove straight to a federal building in the city. Department of Investigation. At the front desk, I asked to speak to an agent by name. Someone I'd found buried in an old news story about off-record black site monitoring programs. The receptionist told me to wait. 30 minutes later, I was led down a hallway, into a small room with no windows. 2 agents sat across from me. I have reason to believe I was part of an unauthorized psychological field operation. I began. And I have proof. They didn't smile. They didn't interrupt. They just let me talk. I gave them everything. The USB, the SD card, the photos, the video of Emily in the car, the surveillance of the politician shaking hands. I told them about Bryce, about the clown, about the man in the leather jacket, about the folder marked Asset File 301, about the man who told me I'd been selected, about the words Phase 2. They asked 100 questions. I answered every one. They promised to follow up. It wasn't dramatic. No arrests. No handcuffs. No movie ending. But it was real. Later that afternoon, Mason called. His voice shook. You made the news, he said. They raided a site in Denver. Said it was some kind of unauthorized psychological manipulation program targeting civilians. They didn't say your name, but I know it's you. Emily never came back to the apartment. Her number was disconnected. I assume she ran. I don't care where. The divorce finalized quietly 2 weeks later. I signed the papers with a steady hand. Now, I live in a different city. Smaller. Quieter. I teach photography at a community college. I drink my coffee slowly. I go for walks. I don't flinch at shadows anymore. And sometimes, late at night, I reread the last line of the report they gave me when the investigation was closed. Subject displayed unexpected resilience. Asset status, terminated. Psychological recovery, exceptional. They were wrong about one thing. I wasn't weak. I was waiting. And now I'm free.